Welcome to episode 2. Today I want to talk a little bit about anxiety. I know I mentioned it in my my intro about how my daughter said she had depression and anxiety and just how I didn't understand it. So this is probably an overgeneralization of my take on anxiety, so don't come at me. But I will say this, prior to my education to become a therapist, if you were to ask me exactly what I thought anxiety was, I would have said probably somebody who overthinks. And that's not completely wrong. That's part of it, but that's really all I knew. I couldn't tell you what it felt like physically. I couldn't tell you I couldn't tell you symptoms of it. I couldn't tell you. That is all I could tell you. Somebody who overthinks, who maybe worries a lot. That was what anxiety was to me prior to my education. And then, of course, how that linked into my daughter was, what do you have to worry about? Like, what are you overthinking about? Like, just me being naive and closed-minded in the moment. And then I learned about it. And so what I learned in again, an overgeneralized way of putting it is there's anxiety disorders, general anxiety disorder, GAD, as we call it. There's all kinds of them in the DSM, which is our kind of Bible as a therapist, what we kind of go off to diagnose people with, the criteria. And then there's other disorders or other things like ADHD that it's a symptom. Like anxiety is a symptom. It's not the actual disorder itself. It's like you have symptoms of. So you may not reach the criteria for generalized anxiety disorder. You just have maybe rapid thoughts or heart palpitations or whatever you're feeling at the time. So the big takeaway was there's anxiety disorders, and then there's also just anxiety and general worry. The difference to me between full-blown anxiety and common worry is anxiety is intense, it's prolonged, it's you're just in a state of usually a lot of just disarray, of your breathing is off, you're having rapid thoughts, you're catastrophizing, you're thinking worst case scenario, all of those things. Whereas common worry or common anxiety to me is like, oh, I have an exam coming up, so I'm worried about that, or I'm thinking about that. It's like, it's more specified, if that makes sense, of an event that usually it's just something that's coming up, like a driving test or an exam or, something like that, where or a medical thing, you've got a procedure you're going to have done. It's not something that after the procedure, you're not going to have anxiety about. It's done after like for me, it's the dentist. Whew. Serious anxiety when I go to the dentist. It's probably more of a phobia, but those are kind of to me, the real difference, and again, generalized difference of serious anxiety, where it's a disorder and it like disrupts your functioning, whether it's your home life, your work life, usually all. If you have true anxiety, it's really all. And the other thing I wanted to say about my own personal experience was I've had anxiety my whole life and didn't know it. I actually didn't know it until I got diagnosed with ADHD. And I started Adderall for my ADHD. And then a couple summers ago, I usually go on trips with friends in the summer for fun, and we were taking a road trip to Maine, and I thought it would be a great idea to come off of my Adderall. And I was actually traveling with a friend of mine who is also a counselor, a therapist. And I was telling him, I was like, man, like I feel anxious. Like I was just couldn't sit still. My heart was palpitating. My hands were sweaty. I was just ruminating, and I couldn't even tell you what I was ruminating on. But, and then I told him, I said, yeah, I decided I wasn't going to bring my Adderall this trip. And he looked at me and he was like, well, that's because that's anxiety. You're having anxiety. Your Adderall actually controls your anxiety. And I was like, oh. Oh, so I kind of understood it a little bit better because I actually could physically feel it. Whereas prior to taking the Adderall, I just thought that was just normal. I thought everybody walked around like that. I literally thought that that was just a way of that everybody was like that. I had no idea that that is not normal, and it really debilitating, truthfully, especially once I got the medication. I was like, the first thing I said was, oh, this is how normal people feel, because I didn't have that. I didn't have that, that crazy worry and just anxiety. So that being said, back to my daughter and her anxiety, she also had ADHD. So I think she was also suffering from the same type of, it was a symptom of her ADHD, like, which made sense to me. It took a long time for it to make sense, but it finally made sense to me. And this is so funny that I'm talking about this today, because literally every session I had today, pretty much we talked about anxiety. And in my last session, which was with a young boy, 13, I said, can you tell me the difference? Do you know the difference? He kept saying, I'm having a panic attack. I'm having a panic attack. I keep having panic attacks. And I said, is it a panic attack or is it an anxiety attack? Do you know the difference? And can you tell me the difference? And he sat there for a minute and he was like, actually, I don't think I know the difference. And I said, okay, a panic attack is something that it's the very same feeling. It's the same feeling of, I can't breathe. I'm hyperventilating. I'm sweaty. My heart palpitations, all of the things. The difference is panic attacks come on like that. There's not usually any rumination prior to. An anxiety attack is when you're thinking about something and you're working it up in your brain and you're on that hamster wheel and it's going and it's going and it's going. You're actually creating the anxiety attack. It's the same physical symptoms, but very different from a clinical perspective. And in his case, he was having a panic attack because he didn't do his homework the night before, in which I explained, that's your choice. You need to do your homework so you don't have the anxiety attack. But some kind of tricks I like to talk in therapy about with anxiety. One in particular, which has worked amazingly for a lot of my clients, is I always tell them, put something sour in your mouth. Sour Patch Kids, I usually carry a bag of them with me for my clients. Not that I have a whole lot that have anxiety attacks, but in case they do. The idea is that when you're in anxiety, you're heightened in your emotion, your amygdala is swollen, your frontal lobe, which is your executive functioning, your decision making, all of the things, is offline. It pretty much goes offline. And for people with ADHD, ours is already kind of slow. So the idea is to jolt your brain back into your thinking brain. You want to get out of the emotion, physical, whatever, and you want to jolt back into your thinking brain. And how you do that is, number one, throw something sour in your mouth. You're going to go, what was that? Your brain's going to be like, it's going to help you come out of it a lot faster. The other thing I like to tell my clients is say the alphabet backwards. How many people can do that? I mean, without thinking about it, not many. You can say count backwards, but counting backwards is a lot easier than saying the alphabet backwards. So I like to give them a little challenge. Say the alphabet backwards. And 9 times out of 10, they're like, I can't. I'm like, exactly. You have to think about it. Putting you in your thinking brain, getting you out of your emotional brain. So those are breathing, obviously, is a great one. Doesn't really work for me, but it works for a lot of people. Temperature change, running your hands under cold water, that will do it, or putting a cold pack on you, that can help. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I like to use my senses. What are 5 things I can touch, 4 things I can see, however you want to use your senses in that. But just kind of name things around the room, look around the room, look for something green, look for something. It's literally jolting you back into your thinking brain. Sometimes it's a lot harder. That's why I say Sour Patch Kids works. Throw it in your mouth. Unless you don't have taste buds or you can't taste, then it probably won't work. So those are some of the things that I talk about in session to help kind of calm the anxiety when you're in kind of overload or you're overstimulated. The other thing I wanted to kind of touch on was anxiety and excitement physically are the exact same feeling. When you are anxious, you get the butterflies, it's hard to explain if you've never had it, but it's the same as the physical feeling you get when you get excited. And I always say, and we'll talk about this in my next podcast, when I talk about some relationship anxiety, butterflies are warning signs. That's your body saying run. We have been taught that it's, excitement. It's, he makes me feel so, I want more of that. No, you don't. You want to run. If you have, I think it was quoted in a song. Oh my gosh, Halsey, maybe Graveyard. I can't remember the name of the song. And she said, butterflies are warning signs. And I was like, yes, they are. They literally are. So if you get butterflies, run. But ultimately, I know my ADHD brain's all over the place tonight, but what I want to say to that is you get to decide. Is it going to be anxiety or is it going to be excitement? So if you're feeling anxious about something, why not flip the script, flip it in and turn it into excitement? It's the same physical feeling. All you have to do, when I say that, all you have to do, it's easier said than done, is change your thought. Oh, I'm anxious about my upcoming dentist appointment. Oh, I'm excited to have clean teeth. I don't know. I mean, it sounds silly, but the reality is you're deciding whether it's anxiety or excitement. So, that's my little spiel on anxiety. I know it's a lot and it's overgeneralized, but I just kind of wanted to give you my kind of point of view on what the little things that I've learned, tricks that I've used in session. I have a lot of clients that struggle with it's common. I hate that it's common, and there's so many different types. And today I talked with a girl who has separation anxiety, and that's a whole different ball game. Social anxiety. And there's all kinds of different ways to treat it. Cognitive behavioral therapy is a good one. Exposure therapy, especially if it's like social anxiety. So that's like slowly making yourself go out in public in certain situations to kind of train your brain to say, it's okay, I'm safe. Anxiety is rooted in fear. It's rooted in fear. All anxiety is rooted in fear. All of it. There's I'm big on getting to the roots, but it's always rooted in fear. And I think Jelly Roll quoted this on one of his an award ceremony. I think he was accepting an award, but he said something about, and I'm probably butchering this, the back window of a car is smaller than the windshield. When we focus on the back, that's usually causes depression. When we focus on the front too far, anxiety. Anxiety is rooted in future thinking. It's rooted in worrying about what's to come. And what we need to remember is we need to stay in the present. Because when we're back here, we're depressed. Oh, I should have done this, or what if I had done that? What did I say? Da 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 da, whatever. But if you're looking too far in the windshield, which is, yes, you should always look forward, but really you need a mindset staying in the present. Because when you're looking too far ahead, you're in this anxious, I don't know it's the fear of the unknown. You don't know what's going to happen. You don't know, but whenever I hear somebody say, but what if, that's anxiety talking. That's your ego talking. That's anxiety. But what? We don't know. We don't know what's going to happen 5 years from now. We can ruminate and think, oh, worst case scenario, I might not have the love of my life. I might be homeless. I might be, might. Well, you're putting that negativity out there. And this is where the spirituality part comes in for me, because I'm a firm believer in karma. And karma is not good or bad. My mom used to say growing up, karma's a bitch. Excuse my French. Karma isn't. Karma's not bad. Karma is you reap what you sow. If you are thinking negative thoughts, if you're thinking anxious thoughts, if you're thinking worst case scenario, you're creating that in your reality. That's what you're bringing in. You're telling God that this is what I want. The universe will always answer to that. If you're saying positive things like, I'm going to be I am successful. Not I'm going to be, because to me that's a little bit negative, because you have to believe it. I am successful, or I am going to get that job. I am strong. A lot of the I am statements for me it's positive. So I'm putting that out, saying, basically telling God, hey, I am successful. And God says, yeah, okay, you are. I know that. Here you go. Right? So, and I've seen it time and time again in my life, not just my life, other people's lives, like truth, that is legit what happens. When we are anxiety filled, we are filled with negativity because it's rooted in fear, and fear is negative, and we were not meant to experience fear the way we experience it in today's society. It literally is ruining us as a society. I'm not one for medications, but some people need them. But a lot of people that come into my room, there are coping skills. There's talking through it that you can do rather than run to get medication. Yes, some people need it. I'm not knocking it. I do truly believe that it has its benefits. However, I think if we were taught at a younger age and I think mental health should be a class in schools, taught in schools, 100% by mental health professionals, not teachers, not knocking teachers, just we're trained in it. That's what we do. We live it. So I just think a lot of this could be fixed. Maybe not fixed, dulled down. I don't know what the politically correct term is, but I think the point being is you shouldn't always just run to medication. Oh, I'm just going to, because you're just band-aiding it. Antidepressants, for example, that's just a band-aid. If you've been on antidepressants for 20 plus years, you're just band-aiding it. you're not actually addressing the problem. That's why therapy is important. That's why talking through these things and working and actually doing the work instead of putting a band-aid on it, to me, is important. Anyway, that's my 2 cents. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening to me. Our next podcast episode's going to be I'm going to have a special guest, and it's going to be on relationships.